community. Happy Feast of the Epiphany. You know what Epiphany means? You may not know what the word means, but you probably associate it with this Sunday, this Feast of the Epiphany. And that's when the three magi, the three wise men, the three astrologers come to where Jesus, the baby Jesus, is and make that discovery. So the word Epiphany really does mean discovery, uncovering the truth. So the truth that the wise men have, the presence of Jesus, the presence of God in Jesus. So the Feast of the Epiphany is good news. It's good news for the wise men. It's good news for those that can receive the good news that the wise men proclaim, that here in this child, they're experiencing the presence of God. How about us? Where are we in that sense of Epiphany? In the Gospel of John, late in the Gospel of John, chapter 20, verse 21, Jesus makes a really, really astounding proclamation. He says to his followers, receive the Holy Spirit. Grapple with that. Receive the Holy Spirit. If you forgive the sins of anyone, they're forgiven. If you withhold that forgiveness, they aren't forgiven. And if I were to ask without any preambles, who can forgive sin, you might struggle with that. And probably you're not really quick to say, well, I can. But that's exactly what Jesus is saying. You can be the experience of the presence of God for the people for whom you can forgive sins, forgive their screw-ups, forgive their mess-ups. So I want to say, take that a little further and be able to say, screw-ups, mess-ups are not always bad news. They may look like bad news, they may feel like bad news, but without that, we remove the possibility of a particular kind of experience of the presence of God. So when we screw up or when we make mistakes, when we stumble and fall flat on our faces, the good news is that we can be forgiven. We can be lifted up. And in that process, God is present and God is experienced. So I would kind of want to stretch that a little bit on this Feast of the Epiphany. Both to say, recognize the good news is that you and I can be the source of experiencing the presence of God. When we are able to forgive, when we are able to heal the mistakes of those around us, we can also be the source of experiencing that presence of God when we reach out for, when we need, when we open ourselves to being forgiven for the screw-ups that we make. God knows that's good news for me. As the day goes by that I wouldn't say, okay, there was another screw-up. And then to be able to say, oh, another possibility to experience the grace of God and the gift of acceptance and forgiveness. So I would invite you to be able to answer this question. On this Feast of the Epiphany, for whom might I be today or this week the experience of God's presence? How might I offer someone by the gift of forgiveness and acceptance and healing, give them the possible experience of the presence of God? So as we celebrate Epiphany, let's celebrate our possibility of being that gift for someone else this week, or of offering that possibility that somebody can give it to us. So screw-ups are not always bad news. And believe me, if anybody's glad to hear that, I am. Happy Epiphany.